Welcome to the Grown Up Group. This is a podcast by regular people tackling the world from a Black perspective. Today I am joined by Kira, Jazz, Joe, and I'm Ty. And today we're going to be discussing growing up Black, breaking generational curses. And this is really important subject to us. We know growing up in a Black community, there was many things that was taboo to us. We wouldn't address it because family traditions was we kept hush about certain subjects, and that's just the way it was. We didn't
Mhm.
address anything far as like parenting styles. It's going to be one of the first things that we address. Then we're going to move into discipline because how you were disciplined was really important, and it really follows whoever your parent structure was, how their parenting style was. So that's why it goes right in tune with discipline. And then our third thing that we're going to address was trauma because we know with everything that we had for as discipline and the parental styles that we had, that caused and created a lot of trauma. And then from trauma, we're going to talk about financial literacy because we didn't really discuss money in households. And, it was none of our business when our parents got paid and what they did. And then we're going to move into our actual fifth and final item, which is mental health. Mental health, because hello, how do you heal and how do you come back from all of those things and traumas and how do you move past it? So we do have some great talking points. We hope that you enjoy the segment. Tell us how you feel about these subjects and what you would add as generational curses or what you felt was taboo in your household. We would love to know. And then we would do another segment. Why not address those generational curses as well and get down to the root cause and how we can cure them and make them better? So we're going to start this off by talking about our parental styles. Have you guys ever did something with your kids and then sat back and was like, damn, why I do it like that? So I wish I would have did it like this instead.
Yeah, I love to hear.
Yeah, especially now that my children are grown. And when I'm seeing my children the way they parenting, I wish I would have done it a little bit more gentle parenting and
Mm,
things like
Mhm.
that. So I was raised in a one parent household by a single mom and things like that. So gentle parent wasn't on the agenda when I
mm,
was younger. And it was a lot of hardcore parenting going on there. It was just like the littlest things. It was just like you got beat, you got yelled at, and you got popped for the littlest things. So now that I'm older and I'm realizing like, okay, you can gentle parent your child without the yelling, the cussing, and the beating and things like that. And they still listen to you and they still grow up to be
Mhm.
successful in a lot. So that's why one thing I hate when people say, oh, had you beat them kids when they was younger, they wouldn't be like that.
Mhm.
Because
mm.
you could beat a child when they're younger and they still grow up like that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
It has a lot to do with the parenting and it has a lot to also do with the child also.
Yeah. I
So,
agree. Because not all children learn the same, and we do know that and identify that now that we're adults and we, have raised our children and we see exactly what's out there in the world. I think when statements are made like that, where it says, "Oh, well, you should beat that child, you should have beat that child," we look at that as a form of discipline. And when I say we look at it as a form of discipline, not to say that it's okay. There's other forms of
right.
discipline, but I think that when we're dealing with our households that we grew up in, they didn't know what those other forms of discipline was. Other cultures do things differently than Black households, as you probably already aware. I never forget, I went to school one day and I told a girl that, oh, I got a beating with a belt. And she said to me at the time, she was like, "Oh, that's good because it's quick and it's easy and it's over." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah." She
Mm,
said, "You didn't have to kneel in a corner on rice, hold
Oh, I
mm,
know
encyclopedias or
what you're saying. I
books
know what.
on your knees." And I was like, "What is that?" And she was like, "That's how my mom and dad discipline me. Whenever I do something wrong, I'm told to kneel in the corner on my knees on a bed of rice, and it hurts your knees and your skin, and it leaves
mm,
bruising
Mm.
and scars." And I was like, "What?" So while we had our ways of actually being disciplined, other cultures have other ways that are equally
Yeah.
traumatic, that they were disciplined
right.
too. But when you talk about your parenting style coming from a single parent household, Kira, do you identify that your mother was, more strict? Was she, just passive aggressive, or was she religious?
Well, she came from a religious, her mom was actually a minister. So
Mm.
Mm.
that right there, grandma didn't play or whatever. So I believe it came from that. Also, she wasn't too aggressive, but it was just like this is how that was the way of disciplining.
Mm.
Was the first thing was just to pick up something and just beat beat you or whatever. I mean, and like I said, it could be the littlest things. I mean, we have done some things that maybe deserved a little something, but it was just like sometimes it was just too extreme
So then
Mm.
I
in my
have a
eyes.
question about that because were
Mhm.
you the type of child that she could have just looked at you or said something and it would have broke you and you would have been disciplined? Was that like fair enough to make that statement that she didn't need to strike you?
Exactly. I felt like I didn't need to be straight. And I'm not just saying it because it's me or whatever, but I felt like I didn't need to be straight. I felt like you could have talked to me, and I was that type of child. Like I wasn't no bad kid. I mean, of course all kids do little mishaps here and there, things like that. And I was sneaky too also when I was little.
Right.
So
At least
Oh,
you know.
and I
sneaky.
was
Oh, you were sneaky. You was one
I
of those.
I right, and I was quiet and I really kept to myself a lot, but like it was just like the little things I did do, whatever, like I got whooped for it, which is
Mm.
you didn't have to whoop me for it.
Mm.
That's how I feel. So yeah.
How about you, Jazz? How was your parental upbringing? Were you like, a strict household, soft parenting? Was your parents passive
No,
aggressive? Could you come and go
no,
as you pleased?
no. My parents, I was raised with both my parents in the household. It was like this. My mother disciplined me and my sister. My father disciplined the brothers. My father was not allowed to put his hands on us. It was just a rule. My father knew it. My mother knew it. It's a rule they made together. Like because my mother and my father knew my father's strength, so they was like, no, he's a man. So no man should be putting hands on the female at all. So they discussed that from before they had kids. It was understanding we don't put our hands on our kids like that and vice versa, whatever. But my mother, if anybody was like the disciplinary, was my mother to all the kids, and she wasn't so hard on us at all, not at all. Like my mother, one thing my mother did, she hated a lie because she had a friend die behind somebody lying, and one of her very close friends. And she, let me tell you something, you could have cursed and have my mother popped you in the mouth, but you would have told a lie. My mother was a different breed of person when you did that.
Mm.
So the only thing that I can remember ever like really getting, not even, we never was whooped really too much at all. My brothers as they got older and they did like some outside street stuff, my parents got tired. So my father beat my brother with a belt, and we cried like a baby because that was abnormal to us. And my father cried after that too, like because he felt bad for doing it, for having to do it. My mother was just as sad, but my father was like put his hands on us. My mother disciplined all of us when it came to, and it was like, give me my little slipper, pop, pop, pop.
Mm.
We'd fake cry, or maybe hit us and it might hurt, make us cry, but no,
Mm.
never was like discipline was very much my mother, father used to look like we knew automatically. That's not it. We don't want to get the slipper. We don't want to get none of that. Like no, that was enough for us. But religious, not really. My mother prayed with us, prayed over us while we was kids. Like she come to the room at night. If she did that till we were adults, she would come in the room and pray over us at night. So religious, not really. I would say more spiritual, if anything. My father wasn't allowed to hit us. My mother was disciplinary. I can remember one time I told a lie. Well, it wasn't a lie. She thought I lied about wearing her shoes around the house. And she took a brush, she popped my hands, and that was in 1980 something. I never forgot that because my mother never really beat us like that.
Wow.
So that
Crazy.
messed me up. Right there, I was like, my mother beat me with my hands with the brush.
Yeah.
We maybe got a. I can't really recall getting beat with a belt. Like no, me and my brother did some crazy stuff. My father had beats with the belt. He felt so bad afterwards. When I got older, my father beat me and my brother, and I was so like, he was devastated. He had to do that to us, but we were older. We just did some stupid stuff. Like, now why would y'all do that? Y'all old enough to know better. Pop with the belt. Like, we were older, like teenagers. I'm like, why would you do that? And my father had to pull the belt on us. It was so ridiculous. But we would never. No, I can't really recall. Like, no beats like that. No.
Okay. So I wanted to ask the both of you,
Mhm.
do you feel that you were heard or listened to while growing up in your Black family?
No,
Mm.
no, I
Mm.
wasn't.
Um, I would say for my end, kind of, it was days, but like I said, my memory is very like, if anything that was impactful to me, I really would like remember it, stand out. I feel like I was heard every now and again. I'm gonna say every now and again.
Okay. So
No.
I asked that because I'm definitely absolutely not in my household. It was kids should be seen and not heard. That was the number
Mm,
one rule. Outside of that, like I grew up in a very strict household. Like my mother ruled with an iron fist. My father was there, but he was very passive in his energy. Like my father, you could just basically come in and just maneuver around, and he'd just be sitting there like, "Look, go do y'all. Don't really care. Long as y'all don't get in trouble and nothing comes back to you negatively, knock yourself out." Like he
Mhm.
was
right,
very
right.
passive aggressive as a parent. I did love and enjoy, his disciplinary actions versus my mom because my mom was so strict. Yeah, you did something immediately. She ruled with an iron fist. She would get her belt out and it's going to be a whooping. It was never anything like, where it was severe, like, where I got bruises on me for days or months. It's never to that severity. But,
Mm,
just the trauma of knowing you're going to go get a belt and your next action is to strike me, not for a minute but like for a minute or two, like that's some hurting, you're gonna put on me. And then my mother was the type that she would whoop you while she was talking, so she would be like, what
Mhm.
did
Mhm.
I tell you
right, right.
to do? And you did not listen. And you like every
Mm,
syllable, this is
Like,
how you learned,
calm
your vowels and
down.
sounds, and you're just like, oh my god, you could
right,
just let this sentence be rushed. Like say whatever you got to say, but
Right.
keep your hands off me, woman.
right.
Right.
But another thing is that, we weren't heard and we wasn't listened to. If I did have anybody as a sounding board, I want to say that it was like my siblings. My siblings and I
Mm,
would often comfort each other or be each other's
yeah,
peace if a parent was coming for us. So, he'll hide me, sis, or protect me
right.
as best as possible. They're gonna get it too, but you know what I mean. But you
Right.
still
Uh-huh.
had that as an outlet. Do you guys feel the same way? It was your siblings that kind of saved you.
Yeah, yeah. When my brother got in
Mhm.
trouble, it was like, oh boy, which I do now, and that weird cry because, like I said, we were very, very close. It was like, oh my God, now here comes daddy. But it was very, very rare. You had to really, really, really. My brothers cut up bad, so I don't even know how my mother and father even. I gave them up. They cut up bad, but yeah, we never got beat with anything like that. It never was no, like no, 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 no. Like I said, my brothers did something as they got older, and it was like I'm doing this to save your life type of situation. Like I'm doing this because if I don't do this to you, you go out on the streets, you're gonna get yourself hurt bad, or something happens to you, like you die. So my
Right.
father had to really take it, but I could talk to my parents about anything. Like my father was like he was very much like my best friend,
Okay.
and
Good.
it was crazy. Like my mother, I don't know what happened, transpired, and then my father, I don't know, had an argument, and I felt it like it was like, and I told my mother, I said, "You, I hate you. You get rid of my best friend." Like I don't know if he did something like that, had some going on behind closed doors, and he maybe went to his mother's house, and that was too much for me. Like where he go? It could have been for a day. They might have got, I don't know. Now looking, he probably did something crazy. I don't know. And it was like, you get rid of my father.
Yeah.
I told my mother I hated her. Now look at how stupid I was, but my mother understood. Instead of her smacking me into oblivion, she was like, "No."
Mhm.
He basically tried to cover my, oh no, da 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 da. And later on, I was like, dang. Now I see they probably was going through something in their marriage and I know nothing about because I was a kid. Like I
Right.
was very, very close to my father.
Yeah.
So I could tell my parents about anything. Like as my mother always would tell me she could talk, I could talk to her because she didn't want to say, oh, like, keep quiet about certain stuff because somebody could have been doing something to us, sexually, and then we
Yeah.
can't talk. So my mother was like, nah, whatever you want to talk about, it was a open door, like, no, come here and talk to me. Sometimes I don't want to talk
Right.
about that. So it was very much you could talk to me about anything. My father the same way. My father more like, dang, y'all girl, talk to your mother about that. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm a
Yeah.
man type of situation. But
Yeah.
he gave me some stuff, and I was like, all right, cool. But he let my mother handle a lot of stuff because they weren't beat as kids. My father was like when he was younger, he tells about stories about his father, his aunts and uncles was like, look, as long as you act right, don't ever let me have to beat you. And when he did something, they beat him. But other than that, he said he knew to steer clear of a whooping.
That's
So
good.
that
Mhm.
followed him all his life. So when he had kids, it was the same thing. Just don't stay. Listen, I was the same way as a kid. I knew to stay out of like, they look dangerous over there. My sister, when we got older, my godmother, when they really ever beat us, my sister would do something. I'm like, now y'all both know. Y'all both know that y'all shouldn't did that. So when they come with the belt, oh well.
Yeah.
But it was very much I could talk to my parents to talk to anybody. It was very like open.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So let's go into our parenting styles. From what we learned
Mhm.
from our parents, did we pass on that same behavior? And were we just as equally toxic or bad at, communication and not being
girl.
heard and not listening. I'm gonna go first on this one because I know
Mhm.
I was terrible. So I picked up the same, rules and regulations my mom and dad showed me. I did
Mhm.
discipline. I did, bell, discipline, punishment, took things away. I was terrible in that regard because I didn't want to hear what a child was telling me instead of listening to
Mhm.
them and getting what their perspective of what happened. It really didn't mean anything because I have 4 children, but I always
Mhm.
knew too. And watching my kids grow, there's 2 of them that's manipulative and 2 of them that's not.
You're a
I could
Mhm.
kid.
say to
You're a
the
kid.
2 kids, I could say to the 2 kids, hey, and they would she tears like she just said
Mhm.
hey to me and I don't know why. Like, and I'll be like, look, I rule with an iron fist. Where the other 2, I had to like, really put hands and be like ready to box because
Mhm.
they would take that
Mhm.
whooping and just be like, that was nothing, more. And you be like,
Right.
what? Like how you
Be
eat
like
that whooping up like
gangster.
that? But
They
they
would test your
would, and then
gangster.
yeah, they would, and it would be so
Yeah.
shocking to me because I'm like, why? And they like, cuz I'm still gonna do what I want to do, and I just if that's the repercussions of it, and then I had to sit back and try to find another way of parenting because that wasn't working. So then I opened up an honest dialogue. Let's have a conversation. Let's see why you feel you need to go outside of the rules and do this and execute this, and
Right.
take the
Right.
the punishment of I'll get beat. So I had to kind of turn it around. I did do that later on in their life, meaning in their teen years, because when they were
Right.
little, I would just pop them because I'm like, no, this is my rule. You don't do this, pop.
Mhm.
Like, that's what I learned. So that's exactly how I saw the best way to discipline my children. Not that it was right, because, I always think that
Yeah.
it was
Right.
always humiliating to be beat. Think about that. That's what slave masters did to
Yeah.
us. They beat us
Right.
because
Yeah.
they wanted us to obey their rules. So why would we pick that negative connotation up and then regurgitate it to our children and our
Right.
and their upbringing and break them and knock their, I want to say esteem and confidence. We had to find a better way of doing it. So as my kids
Right.
became teenagers, I tried to like move away from that. What about your disciplinary or your parental style? Kira, what is your thoughts on that?
So, for me, I was the same way. Well, my kids really didn't. I really didn't have to whoop them. I didn't have to pop them, spank them. The oldest ones at the time. They pretty much listened. I was so big on with my children. I was kind of like even ignoring a whole bunch of other stuff, but I was so big on with my children. If anything happened to you, come tell me. If anything wrong, come talk to me.
Mhm.
If you feeling some type of way, come talk to me. Come talk to me. Come talk. That
Mm,
was my whole parenting thing because of what I went through when I was younger. I couldn't. My mother never said, "Come to me." If this happened, come to me. If that happened, come to. So I was always scared. Like if something happened, I was scared to go to my mother because you probably didn't have no business where you was at or
Right.
whatever, or I just felt like I was going to always get in trouble. So I was so big on that with my children. Like, I don't care what it is. Somebody touch you, somebody look at you wrong, somebody say boo to you. Come tell me, let me know. So I was so big on that with them, what my parents said.
mm,
But as like one of my kids got older, she started getting defiant and and I'm just like, what is wrong? What is wrong? What's going on or whatever, and things like that. And
mhm,
I'm taking her to this place to get checked, that place, and she in this place or whatever. And then she just said to me one day, she was like, you don't understand. You don't understand what's going on with me. And from then on,
Mm.
I'm just like, that's because I don't talk to my kids. I don't, I
Mm.
mean, besides me like saying, come to me and talk to me about whatever, the first thing, as soon as I hear like they did, and I'm just like, oh, I'm ready to yell and I'm ready to pop. Instead of just like, all right, come on, let's just sit down, let's just have this conversation, let's just see what's going on, let's find out what's going on with you.
exactly.
So now that I have the 2 younger ones, that made me be a little bit more gentle with them or whatever. And I still sometimes like I'm even working on it with myself with like the yelling at my children or whatever. Because I always say some of us when we yelling, well, I say this like I always say this about my mom. She was going through issues that nobody knew about or whatever.
That.
So I feel I feel like when you yelling at us and you beating us and stuff like that, you taking that anger out of whatever was going on with you, you taking it out on us or
Right.
whatever. So that's why I always said, once I have children, I'm not beating, even though I did pop them a little here and there or whatever.
Right.
But once I have children, I'm not doing that because that was all anger that was coming out. And you was
Right.
taking it out on us
Yeah.
and things like that. Because I've seen people just like, and even for myself, I just be like, when I'm angry at one of the kids, I'm just like, I just want to pop. I just want to spank, but I'm just like, why? Why? What do you want to spank and pop
Yeah.
for? Because they're gonna go and do the same thing over. Then you're gonna
Right.
wind up popping them again, do the same thing, popping them over again. So
Crazy.
it's a work.
It's crazy. Jazz, let's talk about your
Right.
parental style and your disciplinary. Like, how do you communicate and, interact with your children?
See, my son, being though he's autistic or whatever, I knew why he was not the average, average kid. So it's very gentle. I had to be very gentle. And some days I'd be frustrated because you're trying to get them to talk, get them to do certain stuff. It's like cool, but you have to always remember they don't understand. So I had my daughter, it was like, okay, here comes a quote unquote sense of normalcy. Okay. So I was always say I would never curse at my kids. That's one thing I never like. That was
Mm-hmm.
the thing to me. My parents say do it with us. I wasn't gonna do it with my kids. And I don't think my grandparents even too much even whooped or did certain stuff that my aunts, uncles, my mother. I don't even recall my mother telling a story about anybody getting beat like ever. So that a lot of stuff was passed down. So my mother passed down. I want to say gentle parenting to us. My mother always said, "Come talk to me about certain stuff." So I guess I
Mm-hmm.
had my own kid and she got a certain age. Talk to me. We talk about certain stuff. So as they got older, I had more kids that got older. I never cursed at them at all. After that was the worst thing to do to a child, to actually yell at them and throw vitriol at them, like they're an animal, like you're spewing hate at your kids, like mother. And how you fix your face to do that? That always bothered me. But
Mm-hmm.
when they got older, I cuss. They stress me out so bad. I don't think I ever been this stressed in my life. They are like they're thugs. And I said to myself, I said, maybe I should have whooped y'all. Maybe I should did y'all how people go cut. I said, you know about cutting the switch? I don't know about it, but I heard about it. But let's try that on you. I want to do that so bad now. They're grown and they're teenagers. Like they are different breed of people. They are not the same babies I love to nurture and go home from the hospital, can't wait to get them home and love on them. Because
Yeah.
who raised
Right.
y'all? Who raised y'all? I said, who raised y'all? My grandfather? Like, please. I could tell. Because y'all act like complete animals. And they're girls. So like they're girls. But I think my parents' style is almost like my mother. And I told my daughter, I said, I hate being this type of parent. My mother was the type of parent. Like, she talked to us, she loved us, she nurtured us. Someday she should have slapped the piss out of us. I could have slapped the piss out of one of y'all. Because y'all act like nobody loved y'all. That comes from a broken heart. What is wrong with y'all? Y'all are females that act
Mm-hmm.
like this. They were arguing a few
Mm-hmm.
minutes ago. I'm talking about arguing. I'm just like, stop. I'm trying to get everybody, get everybody's story. Oh, she got my clothes, she got my shirt. They go back and forth. They're all the same sizes about. So they're arguing about clothes. So they are going back and forth. I'm talking about cussing. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh, hey now, I mean, not here. So then it's the cussing, and then it's what's up? Let's fight. I'm like, me and my sister was kind of like that. We're 4 years apart, so never was really too much of that.
Wow.
But
Let's
it's
fight.
like, let's fight, ma. Watch out, ma. Watch out. You're gonna lose the daughter today. Like what?
You're gonna lose a daughter?
No, y'all gonna lose 3 other days. Y'all fight in my house. I'm losing all 3 of y'all because I'm gonna kill y'all. But it's like I don't. My mother was gentle like that with us, and I'm gentle too. But now y'all act like a bunch of animals. So let me treat y'all like such.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
don't. It's like they're terrible. But I think my parenting style. I won't say friendly or friend. Like I try to connect because I know for a fact where I fall short at
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only parent. There's never been another parent here. It's always been me.
Okay.
So I don't know if I try to parent, be the mother and the father, which I know I can never be the father. I'll never say that. It's like I try to be. I don't know what I'm trying to be. It's just like I'm trying to be two parents at once.
Yeah.
So it's like
Right.
I gentle parent them. I love them. I said maybe I should have just went upside your heads or something. But I think I'm a gentle parent. But they always tell me, "Oh my God, I can never do that. I can never go nowhere. Y'all, why you be yelling?" I'm like, "Cause y'all don't listen." But me
Mm.
yelling, that's what hurt y'all feelings. Me yelling.
Yeah.
Maybe I should put a little physical activity behind that too.
Yeah.
They're like, "You always yelling. You hurt our feelings. I'm gonna hurt your feelings." But I was saying it quietly, like, "Stop, y'all. Let me get outside the story. Stop. Y'all was yelling over me, yelling, throwing stuff." Like, so yeah, I don't even know them. These kids terrible.
I was just gonna say, speaking of like hurting feelings, that's that was one of the things I felt like when I was yelling at my kids, I wanted to hurt their feelings because I'm sitting up here telling you, stop, stop, stop. Don't do this, don't do that. And it's just like you're not listening to me or
Let me get your
whatever.
attention.
So exactly. So I'm yelling. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm about to make y'all feel bad now. Even like my ex-husband, he was the hard parent.
The
And even
disciplinary.
like when he exactly, and when he disciplined, I'm like, look, you don't have to talk to them like that
I didn't do
or
it. I
whatever.
did none of
So
that, and I regret it.
exact, and I was the soft one and a little
Mm.
hard at the same time, but he was more harder than
Mhm.
me
Me too.
than I was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I didn't I was
soft
never
ass kids.
I it was like I said, I think I'm trying to compensate for both parents, like be both parents. I don't know how to
Right,
I don't know, it's been like that for 24 years. I don't know. So like I said,
right.
yeah, my kids they never say they got beat. Like they was like they tell her these little stories, they like what they be so blown away. I said, I wasn't beat. I said, maybe my mother should have whooped me and I should have whooped y'all. Like, cause y'all terrible. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I want to go into trauma now because we talked about, our parenting styles. We talked about our parents' parenting style and
Uh-huh.
how it didn't work on us and how sometimes it
Right.
did. We talked about discipline and the ways that we receive our beatings and our, punishments. I want to go into trauma because trauma, how we deal with trauma and how we heal from trauma is a whole
Mm,
different journey. And you start to get to that, like, when you start to get in your 20s and you start to get into your, 30s and you start to mature a little bit and you start to reflect back on the things that happened in your past, in your childhood, and everything. And I do want to get into the trauma because how many times have you guys heard, "Get over it, fix your face, don't dwell on
that's
it,
what they
and
should
this
be.
too shall pass." That was typically the sayings in a black household after you got a whooping
Yeah.
or a spanking. Fix your face, put a smile on your face. Now you got to
Hmm.
Yeah.
swallow your feelings, and now got to be like straighten your back and be like, oh, you want
Mm,
to show for somebody, and that's a whole separate level of trauma, I believe,
yeah.
because now you're shoving down what you may be hurting about. You can't express
Suppressing,
it,
yeah.
and you just basically
Right,
have to swallow your pride and your dignity and just go on about going to school, doing what you got to do in school, making sure you put on your best performance so nobody call into question your mama and daddy and what they did and
right.
why they did it. So I want to talk about those traumas. Are you guys, how do you heal from that trauma from growing up and growing up in a black household and dealing with some of those things that you did have to deal with, the parenting styles as well as the disciplinary? What are your thoughts on
Um,
how did you cope with that?
Therapy.
Mm,
I mean, I'm definitely in therapy, and I don't know if it's working or not because sometimes I still think about those days, but it's not as bad when
Hmm.
mm,
I'm thinking about it or whatever. So, and when I am thinking about it, I call my therapist like, look, I need to talk to you right now
Yeah.
or whatever. But I'm in therapy right now. I have a therapist, and I talk to her about all of those things.
Okay.
Um, some of that I even put on my own kids with even especially for boys. It was bad for
mm.
boys. It was prohibited for boys to cry
Mm.
when they were younger in the black household. It was always, you a man, you a boy, stop crying or
Yeah.
whatever. And things like that, which is they also had feelings also. So it was like that with my son, like, you're a man, you're a boy. Stop crying. What are you crying for? You want me to give you something to cry? He already crying.
You
He's
stop
already
crying.
crying
Right.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever, things like that. So I really actually had to stop doing that because every time when I'm thinking about what my mom did when we was younger, I'm like, you gotta stop that. You cannot put these on your own kids. Yeah, I'm in therapy. I
Okay.
go to therapy.
I recommend therapy for any and everybody because it just helps with healing. The more you
Right,
talk about it, the better you become at it. You
right.
practice makes perfect. I want to say in every regard. Jazz, how do
Yeah.
you actually cope and how are you healing from past traumas?
See, like I was telling y'all, I didn't have traumatic things happening in my house. I just didn't. It was like when I heard stories about other people, it was like, you experienced that with your parents? Like, my mother, like I said, when she had to pop us, it was like, get it out now, straighten your face up.
Yeah.
See, and I'm saying with my kids,
Mm-hmm.
I always take their feelings into account. I never would discount their feelings because they're kids. They still are human. They have feelings. My mother probably
Mm-hmm.
was the same. She didn't say it, but I understand that she did that. I looked at it like this. She did let us get our feelings, our emotions out. Now fix your face. Because she
Mhm.
popped us because we probably did something stupid. We probably was taking selling potatoes out of lady next door garden, throwing them, stuff like that. So, she's disposed about stuff like stuff like that. But I didn't have no trauma. My mother was both my parents were very like, before I have to put my hands on you, let me talk to you.
Oh,
I'm
that's
Right.
here.
good.
Talk. So any trauma I
For
experienced was outside of the house. And when I got way older, I never had to. Even my grandmother and them, and my godparents and my other grandparents, I never had. I can't even tell my it was never none of that.
Oh, wow.
Like
mm,
I guess it was enough trauma in their past to where they're like, we're not passing that on to nobody. Like I say, I don't think
right.
my parents had too much of traumatic past. Like, I don't think they had that. So when even my godmother and even my grandmother, they must have had enough of that to where it was like, we're not gonna do that to them kids.
That's
Hmm.
But
good. And you sound like your family was generational ahead of doing it
yeah,
because
we
you see
weren't
the
Right.
even.
past generations doing that now, where they're like,
I
"Hey,
can't
let me
name a
talk to you."
time. I
Yeah.
can name a time like my mother would tell a story about how my God rest their soul, my aunts got drunk and played hooker from school and threw up on each other.
Oh,
And my mother had to come home in a cop car. It was lots of that happened. She was little, like it was a lot. And my mother could never name a time. I think that's the only time my grandfather ever did something to my aunt, like to beat her because my mother came home in a cop car because she
mm.
fell at the Rotunda pool and hit her head. She was like 6. She had to tell the cops how
Oh,
to get home.
oh,
And it was
wow.
like the cops stood up, and my grandfather was a police officer. Girl, what? Because she was
Yeah.
running up with her little boyfriend, which became
Oh,
her husband later
wow.
on in life. Yeah. So other than that, my I can't name a time where I heard my parents or my aunts or my uncles even mention even them getting whooped or anything. So
Okay.
they passed it on to us. Even my grandmother can't name a time, like even my other grandparents never named, even my godmother, like she was like, I can remember her doing my hair, her papa was with the comb, like, don't move. I did not experience any trauma until I got to be grown. I was already on my own, had kids. Other
Oh,
than that,
wow.
mm, like
Okay.
somebody said, you got whooped with a extension cord. I'm like, you know how traumatic that was. So like, what? That's abuse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I didn't have, thank God. I don't, we weren't perfect, but we had a dope upbringing. Like it was never,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
Yeah.
mm-mm,
So I do want to say that I did not have a healthy journey when it came to
mm,
self-healing. I did turn a
Hmm.
lot to not substance abuse, but alcohol. I did have a lot of
Hmm.
alcohol abuse, especially in my 20s.
yeah,
Because I grew up in a strict household that was also religious, I had no outlet. So I felt that I was my own outlet. So if I would get in my head or my feelings or start to think about some of the things in the past and like, my relationship with my family, I often would drown that in some vodka. So me and vodka had became very
mm,
good friends. It was my best friend. You hear me through my 20s. Vodka was my very
Hmm.
best friend.
right,
It saw me through a lot of,
mm,
healing and what I thought was healing at the time. It's very unhealthy to do that.
right.
I wouldn't recommend this strategy for anybody because it had its downfalls because you still got to go
Right.
to work, you still got to function, you still got to live, you
Hmm.
still got to have a mate, you still got to communicate with the outside world, and vodka will be a deterrent to all of that stuff being successful. That's the one thing
I
that I
get
do
it.
want to say. It was like, in my everything in moderation, but when you're trying to drown your feelings or drown thoughts of things that traumatized you in the past, the best way to do it is to get under some vodka and drink your heart out and try to cry
Right.
your feelings out. And it doesn't help at all because those things always still come back. So that's how it
Right.
wasn't helping because it's always
Right.
coming back, but it's coming back
Right.
even harder, negative, more
Yeah.
negative than it was before. And now it's starting to show as me like like lashing out to others in
Right.
that
Mm,
regard because I'm like, if I got beat, then guess what? My kids gonna get beat too. I know
Yep.
learn how to be better and how to be respectful to my authority because I was put in my place. Now I gotta put my kids in their place and make sure they don't overstep their boundaries. And the one thing that I love about this, Gen Z generation is that they have no problem stopping the bad behavior like your family did, Jazz, and
Hmm.
say, hey, enough is enough. Why do you not
Hmm.
listen to me? Why do you not take what I'm saying in regard? Like, why are you so dismissive to whatever I'm trying to say to you? I'm coming to you as your child and stop, with the negativity or the bad discipline. And at the time, you don't see it as that. You see it as, look, you're not
right.
doing what I want you to do. So I feel like I have to
Right.
take this necessary action. And if you don't continue to listen, it's only going to get worse from here. That's what my rule was, because that was my house. And,
Right.
this is how I was raised. This is how my mate was raised. And that's how we disciplined our children. And when my kids would come back and say, well, so and so said, well, why are you telling so and so our business? Now we got a whole nother beef. Like,
Right.
because that was
Right.
Right,
also
Right.
taboo. You don't tell what goes on in your household
Right.
once you walk out that door in the morning. And I learned that very easy by being disciplined
right, right,
immediately. Kids will
right,
do it. They'll go outside the house and be like, I know my mama told me I wasn't supposed to tell, but I'm gonna tell this nurse that she put her foot in my ass so far and deep that like
right,
I have to have it surgically removed, because
right,
that's not the norm. It shouldn't be the norm. And because we
Right.
learned those bad behaviors early, coming back from that trauma was a long journey for me. And as I stated, it took for my kids to get into their teens to be like, okay, now how do I reverse engineer? How do I correct all this bad behavior that I did for all this time frame for so long? Like, and if this is
Right.
what it's come to, I now have to know to stop that bad behavior. And what do I look as a resource to fix it? Or now when I have
right.
to discipline my kids, how will I do that? So, putting the bottle down was one of the things, and then going into a physical doctor's office and seeking therapy because I knew I needed the help. That's exactly what I had to do. And then I had to
Right.
seek therapy for my kids, because my kids, they've been through the trauma of now what I
Right.
put onto them from my past
Mm,
traumas. So now they have to go through counseling, and hopefully and pray that they don't have to do onto others as I've done to them. It's a learning
mm.
lesson. Life is a learning lesson.
Yes,
And one thing that I said about parenthood is the worst hood is adulthood. No one teaches
Yes.
you
right,
these journeys that you have to go through. And no one wrote a book that says, oh, well, there's a million books out there, but you
I was
never know
right,
just
which
gonna
one to
say.
pick up and believe, because your own experience is unique to your own. So it is a big
right.
difference. It really is. So when I talk about trauma, I'm like, it was a hard road. And,
Mm,
unfortunately, I went to alcohol and, any substance abuse that I could get to numb the pain or
right,
stifling it as much as possible. And then when I saw that I was now putting that pain onto others, I'm like, now really have to come to a means of getting away from that. And then how do I correct this now bad behavior? So that was really big on my part.
Right.
The next thing that we talk about when we talk about, growing up in a Black household, we never talked about financial literacy. Financial literacy, we were
mm.
never told when bills were being paid, when our parents got their
No,
paychecks. All this stuff was like unbeknownst to us. And like even tax season, like our family back then didn't go run out and go get the newest vehicle or the biggest model TV.
no,
It was, let's
no.
put this money to the side. We'll spend it gradually over time. Did you guys run into the same thing when I say financial literacy? Did you know when your parents got
Uh,
paid?
I didn't even know my mother had a job.
Okay,
There you go. There you go. Was not talked about. It was not
I
talked
right.
about.
did.
Go
I
ahead,
didn't know my
please.
mother had a job. I didn't know nothing about taxes until I started working at 18 and filing my own taxes. Yeah, I didn't know my mom had a job. I didn't know anything
Right,
about taxes. I know when she gave me the money to go pay the rent, and I know when she gave me the money to go pay the PSE&G bill. That's all I know. I didn't know nothing about her finances, not one bit. These kids today, and you know what? That's our fault.
Yeah,
Why these
mm-hmm.
yeah,
kids, why these kids know about our taxes
yeah.
Right,
or whatever. Because even for me, when I'm like, we got our taxes. Come on, get dressed. Let's go. We
right.
got we got money today. Come on, I got paid today. So yeah, you could buy and order anything you. We didn't do none of that. We didn't do none of that when we was growing up. So yeah, these
So
kids
that's the one
today.
thing that was really taboo in our household. Like, we knew our dad had a job. Like we knew he came back and had, dollars on him. And we like, why? Give us
Right,
money. You hear me? Why? Give us money. We had no idea what
right,
those bills was
Right,
that money was going to. We just knew we had an apartment. It was over our head. And then we eventually moved into a house and that was over our head. But like it was
right,
never a talk of like we gotta save up to blank dollars. We never were physically there when our parents had that conversation about money. And I don't
right,
know
right,
why it went so left, but you said it, Kira. We look at that as a time of celebratory. Like when I get my paycheck, oh, I get paid on Wednesday. So Wednesday when I get
mm-hmm,
paid, be ready to go, y'all. Why?
right.
yep,
Why? Why can't we do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday when the rest of the week exists or the following week? If we're saving
Right.
money and we start talking to our kids about financial independence and literacy, we'll get them to the point where they don't look at every paycheck as a celebratory occasion. That's one of
Right.
the things
Right.
in our Black community that holds us back is because every single time we get a paycheck, we think we're going to go buy the biggest, greatest bottle of liquor
Mm-hmm.
or buying
Mm-hmm.
something that like really means something to us, jewelry, cars, TVs, all that stuff that's indispensable. Like that stuff is you could just
Mm-hmm.
basically, you know what I mean? Like two,
Right.
$300 a 56-inch TV. Like, why do we need to have that continuously every year? You're gonna go buy a new TV. So those are the
Right.
things that
Exactly.
we kind of want to get out of actually holding that back from our kids and start teaching them and telling them about the finances, not just when you get paid, but hey, this is a paycheck. This is where I need to put my money. This I need to save up. I need to make sure that we're taking care of these bills. I've learned over the course of years now how to share that with my children in a very positive
Right.
way. I will tell them, hey, I have $1,000 in this blank bank account. Now, based on the four bills that I have, what do you feel that can be paid? And they're like, well, you could put this to this, because it's a test of like knowledge and it's also a learning lesson. I don't want them to get out in an apartment on their own and then learn those things by like, rude
Right.
awakening. I want them to see exactly like over the course of time, you pay this, you could have payment on everything. You got $1,000, put a little bit on everything. So that way it
On
brings the
everything.
balance down. So that way when it's past due or it is due, you can't come up with the last $300 because you didn't put nothing on it at all. You went out and had,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
dinner or bought a
Mm-hmm.
car and you can't really afford to live or afford that bill. But like that's the things
Right.
that we need to get away from in the Black household and Black communities and making it more of a positive experience for our children because now they're heading out to the world of these unrealistic expectations. And I hate
Mm-hmm.
that they're not aware of how much different it could be. They could have a bank account and be secure within that bank account and save money and not just spend every dime as soon as they get it. And that's what I learned.
Right.
I learned because I didn't have any money management skills or it wasn't taught on to me. We could just take this check and we could spend it. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I knew my parents had a job. I knew that for a fact. I didn't know about taxes. Now, like they never told me about like taxes. It was like it was an adult thing, I guess. Like but now look back when I got older, I'm like, damn, that might have been taxes because that year we got that living room set, or that year we got that big stereo with the big speakers and da 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 da. Or
Yeah.
my father they got a new car. I'm like, they had money back then, da 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 da, and we had a
Yeah.
new kitchen set. It could be something like it wasn't every year, of course. So I was like, well, damn, that's probably what it was back then. So and then even like I would go my mother pocketbook or she'd tell me to do something or she'd be cleaning her pocketbook. I would look through her checkbook like, well, what is this right here? And I asked her questions. She started explaining some stuff. I guess she was so busy with life and writing out stuff. So I'm write for PSNG, I do this, I do that, whatever, whatever. Um, it was never really talked about. It was like these bills get handled. That's why I learned like my parents are handling business. That's why I learned like to pay your freaking bills. That's one thing about me. I always tell people, I don't care what transpire, my bills, my rent will get paid because I have to have a
Mm-hmm.
roof over my kid's head.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if nothing else, they come get this car, they come get this and that. They're not coming to get nothing out of his house or to kick me out of his house because I was responsible. So I watched my parents work
Mm-hmm.
hard and be responsible. So they never really discussed per se like, oh, money and this and that. Never really did that at all. But I saw them be responsible and work. So that's where I got that from. Like I'm more responsible, I'll be
Right.
working. We never were without, like as far as like kicked out in the streets, but my mother and father owned his house. Like that never was a option. It was like, no. All my aunts and my uncles, my grandparents made sure everybody owned the house. But Mary had the house. So I
Mm-hmm.
saw that. And then being the person that I am, I had some hardships myself. So as I got, I dug myself out of that hole. I would tell my kids, you never want to be with the position I was in. And I had four people looking back at me like, what are we gonna do? They never felt none of my struggle.
Right.
So I got my stuff together, got my credit together, and I was trying to tell my kids about how this go, how that go. Of course, nobody wants to listen to me. They get the little check and blow it. It's a Jordan box showing up here every other week. But all right, all right, all right, little Miss Pretty be on the streets because I'm about to throw you out. I ain't throwing it out nowhere, but they get their little bit of money. Let me say something. They go buy sneakers. I see a Sheen package come here. I'm like, you got your little bit of money, right? So you better take some of that money. At least take the 40% from your pocket. You put that 60% up. But of course, somebody listen to me. But sometimes they do listen to me. After a while, after I tell them, oh, now listen. They be like, oh my, you got no. You had, and what you do? You squandered it and you blew it. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I don't care where I'm at or what transpired. I got at least $10 in my drawer. It's now mind you, $10 is nothing. But if something ever happens, I go get a little pack of chicken for $4, get some little whatever, and get some rice. We gonna eat.
We definitely want to
I'm
eat,
that
Mm-hmm.
right?
bad into it. Like I promise you, because I fell on such bad times where it was like, "What's up? We got to be fed." They never saw it, never felt it, but it's like these people are
Right.
watching. These kids watching me. They're absorbing this. I cannot do that. And it was never like I was a person where I spend money frivolously. Never. I'm very much a
Right.
saver, but that right there, them hard times made me so much of a saver.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
again, if anything happens to my mother, my father had her, and if that's what my father had her. So they had somebody to fall back. Well, I didn't have that option. I got older, had my kids. I was the only parent, so
Right.
automatically was like, nah, I'm going to right to mommy mode. How I'm
Right.
gonna do this? How I'm gonna do that? Right now, I got money in the car. Like it could be 5 times. I got in the car. I got money in my drawer. I got money in my bank account. I got money hitting somewhere else
Mm-hmm.
because I do not know what's gonna get bad again, and I won't ever let it
Mm-hmm.
get that bad again. God knows it was terrible. It was like, nah, never again. So I try to tell my kids, get your money, save this, do that. I want to open up a bank account for you, but being that you do that money like that, if you go ahead and do that into a bank account, it's gonna be you're gonna want on them. You're gonna be a negative. So the answer is no. But get your bank account. You gotta wait,
Yeah.
or even getting a credit card because now you got a late fee on top of money that you do owe. So I try to tell them that way. So yeah, I'm very much like I did not know my parents got taxes, and like you said, it was never really discussed. It was just like stuff was being handled.
The one thing that I do want everyone that's viewing this to take away the 50-30-20 rule. I know I've spoke about it before on the podcast. I forgot which segment, but it's really important that we learn that 50-30-20 rule. And the reason behind it is because this is where you get your financial strength from. This is where you actually you get to see that your money is lined up where it needs to be. You want to take 50% of your
Mhm.
check or any money or income that you get, and you want to put that towards your needs. You need a roof over your head. You need a house or apartment, whatever you living in. You need food. That's an important thing. You need food, not want, need. Your needs. You need
Right,
electricity in order to function in your house. So you
Mm-hmm.
want to put 50% of your check to your actual needs. 30% you want to put to your wants. Meaning, I'm not going to go say, hey, let me go spend my whole check, because I want some
right,
outfits. I want to, fashion over and Temu me to death. But I'm gonna look at and say,
right,
what do
right,
that I want, that may be a splurge item for myself. Like maybe I may want to get my hair done. Maybe I want to just go to a beauty supply store and invest in some castor oil for my hair or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I
right,
want something that's very menial, not something that's going to blow my whole paycheck. It's a big difference with wants versus needs. And then you want to also take that 20% remainder and put it towards your savings. That's the 50-30-20 rule. It's very easy to follow. If you get $1,000, 50% of that, which is $500, is going towards what your actual needs are. Think about that. And then you're going to divide that other
right.
$500 that's left over to your wants and your actual savings. $200 into savings, $300
Hmm.
on your wants. It's very simple. It's very easy to explain it. Please make sure you follow that 50-30-20 rule. It'll get you to so much progress. If you're trying to save, if you're trying to save maybe you have a goal, maybe you're just joining households with another mate, put that and implement that in their life, in their day, and you'll see you'll be able to save up a lot of money. You'll be able to live within the means that you should for your household, if as long as you have a substantial income, because I know that's a big question, is how we're surviving today with inflation and everything. That 50 30
Really.
20 rule can go so far for you. So like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just keep that in mind every single time you get a bill or get paid. 50-30-20, simple.
Hmm.
So the last thing that we want to discuss is mental health. So I got to tell you, in order to have this conversation and not go negative, because anytime I talk about, like, black taboo, household, community, family, generational curses, all of this stuff is very negative to people that don't want to hear it. And
Mm.
I said it to someone, I'm like, you can't address something with negativity if you don't have the positive effects of what happened, because everything that came out negative, there's a positivity that came from that.
Mm-hmm.
And I talk about these things like, parental styles, discipline, trauma, financial literacy. There's somebody that's going to watch this podcast and be like, oh, these are all the things not to do that my parents did to me. And maybe they'll catch it. Me, be it, somebody in our households, your household, somewhere out there. They're going to know all of these things is not what is the norm and what should not be the norm. The mental
Right.
health takes a turn because Now, how do you come from that healing, from that trauma? How do you look at things in a more positive perspective? How do you now know your self-worth after you've been beaten and, punished and all of these things that's happened throughout your life? Not you, Jazz. You probably got the
Right.
confidence you know, of a superhero
No,
because of that. Because you
because
wasn't
I was
disciplined the
talking.
same. It's kind of crazy because you wasn't
Yeah.
beaten and shown that negativity in life. You probably have a different outlook and probably look at things with much more positivity than what you should.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
that's why you're the nurturer of the group too, because
But you know what, too?
you had
Remember we
such a
talked
positive
about
note to
Right. Remember
things.
we talked about other stuff and how soft I am and just in relationships in general. That's probably where it
Yeah,
came
Mhm.
from. So that's
yeah,
the generation curse to me. Because it's like I watched my mother be gentle and be certain things and watch my father do certain things. So like you passed it down to me was good, but now it's being used for bad because I'm soft and these people taking advantage of me.
right,
So
Mhm.
then it's that, and then it's also like I try to tell my kids, when you see somebody outside, you never know what the person been through. You
Right.
never know. I said you have to be easy on people, and because I know, but I could be judgmental with certain things. I'm like, I try not to be that way because you never know what person went through. So I tell my kids all the time, you see somebody begging sometimes for food, I see people call them, oh, get out here, you effing bum. Like, how you fix your mouth? Because you never know what brought that person to be, quote unquote,
Right.
a bum. You never know what trauma, whether it be mental, physical, or verbal abuse or sexual abuse or whatever, you never know what brought that person to that person. So be nice to people because you never know what hole they're trying to climb out of. And that's their coping mechanism to use
right,
drugs and
Right.
alcohol
yeah,
to
Right.
hurt to cover that pain because again it was some things that I experienced when I got older that was horribly traumatic. It was like that's how they ended up that way. Now I see why they ended up that way because people lose kids, people lose their mind.
hmm,
So you never know
Mhm.
what a person is going through. You never know it's abused. If they was abused as a child, you never know. You could just like even somebody made a post earlier about be careful what you say to kids
hmm,
because they grow up. You can give them a complex. You can hurt their feelings, and that can traumatize them the rest of their
Mhm.
life. So I tell my kids, even like I'm very aware of feelings. And I'm very aware that what I can say to a kid or to anybody, especially my kids, that they can take them, put them in a whole different headspace.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I try not
Right.
to traumatize my kids. Like we laugh, we joke, we did it. I hate ugly, no, something like that. But for me to actually fix my face, call my child fat, to
Mhm.
abuse them in my words, to do anything that the world could probably do to them, I'm never going to do to my kids or to anybody, or let alone to another child, because that can shape them the rest of their lives.
right,
Yep.
I was never spoken too crazy as a kid.
yeah,
And if I was, I would never put that on anybody else, or even especially my kids. But I wasn't. So why would I do that to my own kid or to anybody? Call somebody is giving a complex, kill their confidence, so they don't look right. So what I do to my kids is like they ask my opinion on the outfit, my opinion on the outfit. I'm like, fix this right here, da 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 da. Fix that, do this and that. They're like, man, you a hater. I'm like, no, for real, fix that. I won't let them go outside looking a certain way or being a certain way because it's what we're not supposed to do. But I would never fix my mouth to be like to spit in my to say something to my kids. Like I don't have that envy to even speak to somebody like that at all, but my own kid,
right,
absolutely not.
Mhm.
And I don't ever let another person do nothing to my kids either. Like I
right,
see people like I tell people all the time, I cuss my kids out because they do crazy stuff around the house. Like you ain't clean up, you ain't doing doing what you're supposed to do as whatever whatever. Now I cuss your kid out too because these kids out here be acting the fool. I cuss the kids out here in the parking lot, kids in front of my car. Because why you crossing that street and this light is green? You must don't
yeah,
like that. You must don't like that. You want to get just me. You want to get hit? Yeah. Because I tell people all the time I love your kids because I want somebody
yeah,
to do that same thing to my kids. I
Right.
say out of love. I'm not being
yeah,
disrespectful to nobody, kid. Like you can't talk the way
Right.
that I did. Because that kid was out here acting the fool and that could have got them hurt. Because if
yeah,
I didn't check your kid, that kid could end up hurt. So I don't speak certain ways to kids or people in general. I just don't have that in me to speak it to a child. You know what? That can shape their whole life.
yeah, it does.
They
Of
can turn them
course.
into, and they can pass that trauma down to their kids and their kids. Like I don't.
Mhm.
It's a certain way I move as a human being. You don't speak that way to certain people. You just don't do certain stuff to certain people or to
Right.
anybody. But a child, to
Mhm.
you for you to call somebody like I don't know if y'all seen that video with a little girl. Just have you said little girl. Her parents always joking like calling her fat or whatever it was. It was like, wait, what is this? My kid showed it to me. Somebody was being mean, or maybe a company was trying to, I don't know, maybe boost the little girl conference. I'm not sure what their intention was. They sent the little girl some like some flat tummy tea. We're gonna say, now I'm gonna call it that. Some type of tea to make her lose weight. And she acted like she was so happy about it. I can
Oh
see her
no.
eyes. She was so like, oh, I got a gift. I'm so happy. I'm gonna lose weight and that type of thing. Because they're telling her this. She was never good enough. So, and I think somebody wound up calling people on them. They got the little girl removed from their house.
Yeah, yeah.
because
Mm.
they're making a whole spectacle of a little girl. I was like, how do you do that to a
A little
child?
girl, yeah. Don't ever give a child a complex. They'll lose and shed that baby weight so fast. Soon as puberty kicks in, like that's
It's
gone.
just
Like it's
so
a
much
done
you can
deal.
Right.
say to a
Yeah.
child. I do stuff like that. I try to always control my emotions. I'm very self-aware. Like, all right, Jazz, you feel some type of way today? Nah, not right now with the kids. Like, let them go off. Like, just somebody check them. Like, go sit down for a minute before I snap. That's what I do. I'm not
Yeah.
doing that to nobody, to no kids. Mm-mm.
Again, I would say therapy.
So I want to go into some of the things that I did research and basically pull from a website. One, if you are experiencing any mental health issues, please seek therapy. Please get diagnosed. Please make sure you take the proper medication. Please do not self dose. Please do not turn to alcohol and drugs because those things are temporary fixes. They don't make the problem go away. You do actually have to sit down and address what the issue is. So, this is the most important thing because you want to break generational cycles, promote long term mental health. This is the way to do so. Take note of the common belief in your family system and what's toxic that you do not like. It's really what it is, identifying what the problem
Right.
and the cause is. The second thing, once you identify what the cause is, you want to identify the family pattern of behavior. That's different from
Mm-hmm.
what the actual problem is. Maybe they address it by doing certain things. You don't like those certain things. You want to start to pull away and not do those certain things, activities, whatever the case may be, whatever that behavior is. You want to now stop what that behavior is. You want to make sure you heal from the toxic pattern by defining new priorities. I know in order for me to heal from my actual things, I had to distance myself from those family members I felt was toxic, be it
Mm-hmm.
my direct mother,
Right.
father, cat, dog, I don't really care, sibling. I had to give myself space to identify and allow myself clarity to think things through without someone else's impression on me or of what the situation was or trying to manipulate me to what that situation may have been. I had to then stop with the alcohol and any drugs, anything that I was partaking in, so that way I could have real clarity to make sure that I know if I am the party or the problem, how to identify that and how to fix that problem. And all of this, all with the guide of a therapist and having someone help me set boundaries with my family and loved ones that I had these mental health issues with. So
Mm-hmm.
those are really the things that you want to identify and take note of the common belief in your family system that's toxic. You want to identify the family pattern of the behaviors that's going on. Then you want to heal from those toxic patterns. From healing from those toxic patterns, you want to define new priorities to focus on and then set boundaries with your family and friends and loved ones that you
Mm.
need the mental health from. Those are the five things that you do to really help heal your mental health long term. And then you try to stick to those best as possible. I got to tell you, this was a journey because I did research all of my old therapist notes. I had to go through my big book. I have a really big notebook that I had a lot of notes in. I would get off a therapy session, and as I was crying, and going through
Mm-hmm.
my emotions and feelings on what that experience was, I would
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes note not what happened, but how it made me feel.
You
So
feel, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
identifying how it made me feel was the most vulnerable stage because I was then able to say, how will I never ever get myself to that breaking point again of that vulnerability to move past it and then be better and be greater than that. So it's
Right.
easy if you ever see a bully, right? If a kid is bullied or someone is bullied, then it's always a relief to that person if I could go and bully somebody weaker than me. And I wanted to get out of
Mm-hmm.
that
Mhm.
vicious cycle of that. And how do I get out of that vicious cycle of doing that? Is now identifying what that problem is, going away from that, and then putting the necessary steps in place to make sure that I'm distracted or moving on to other positive thoughts. Hence this podcast. Um, other positive things that I
Right.
want to have going on that I could focus my time and redirect from the negative and make it positive. So that's really what it is. Did you guys want to add anything to those subjects that we discussed?
I would like to add something. For parents, get your kids into doing activities.
Mm,
That
yes.
right there, that definitely could help because and that was another thing I noticed. My kids was in activities. We was always in each other's face all the time. So we was
Yeah.
getting sick of each other also. So it was just like, all right, when my youngest son, the 16-year-old, one day he told me, he was like, I need a break from you. And I'm like, I need a break from you too.
Right. That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm
Feelings
like,
mutual.
we are around each other all the time.
Mhm.
Find something to do, because that could bring on a lot of stress also for
Yeah.
parents. It could bring on stress for the kids. And that's where we get the yelling and we get the going back and forth and things
Together
like
too
that.
much.
So like, even like the little one, I signed her up for the YMCA. It costs $45 an annual fee
Oh, that's
or
good.
whatever.
Yeah.
So she's going into, she does soccer, about to sign her up for swim classes, and they doing little things like that, so it keep her
Mhm.
active. So we'll be out doing things all the time, and we won't just be sitting in the house. It's like sitting in a jail cell. You get
Right.
stressed, your mind start wandering, and your brain start going crazy, and it's like, I can't take it no more
Yeah,
or
it's not
whatever.
good.
So I encourage parents, get your kids into something.
That's amazing. I think that's a great idea and
Mhm.
suggestion. It really is. I do want to thank you guys for joining us. We are the Grown Up Group. Again, I'm here with Jazz, Kira, and I'm Ty. We hope to see you in our next segment. Peace.
Bye.